Alright, YouTube, back again for another video. I was up in the air on whether or not I wanted to go ahead and do this video right now, but it's pretty shitty weather. Is it picking up on rain? Anyway, yeah, so last video I made was just a little update for the EVO, but today I had the Mustang up in the air. So I was under here looking at some stuff, and look at my tire, bro. Like, all kinds of cracking. So because of that, we're gonna go ahead and take these tires off. Let's see if we can find like a decent used tire. I'm not sure if I want to get brand new tires, considering I don't even want these wheels anymore. I think I had a blowout like right before putting this car up for storage, so it makes sense that those are probably like some shitty tires. Only spent like $100 maybe on it, so not really too pressed about that. But in the meantime, I figured this would be a nice time to go ahead and do like that dude in blue style video where we kind of just talk about whether or not you should buy an EVO in 2025. So the EVO is coming up on 25 years for my car specifically. The car first came to the US, I think in 03 for the EVO 8 model year, and they pretty much stayed here until, you know, the end of the life cycle for the EVO, so about 2015. So yeah, the car is pretty old, and it's still, I think, pretty desirable. Like, this is the car that I think a lot of us seen as we were growing up as kids. People say all the time that you shouldn't meet your heroes or own your hero cars. So I want to go ahead and I guess give my opinion on whether or not that is true or isn't true. So it was squeaking. It quieted down now, but I heard all types of squeaking over here. So I kind of wrote down a little like script and try to keep my thoughts composed because there's a lot to go over. So let's go ahead and start with obviously the bad. So with the EVO being 20 years old, there's obviously going to be less of those around, just available. And the fact that the EVO was only made, well, this specific body style, the CT9A, was only made from 03 to 06 for the US domestic market, or the EVO 8, EVO 9. So already there's limited quantity, and of those that are still available, they're either trash to shit. Yeah, they're just trash to shit. Probably about 10, 15, probably about 10 years ago when these cars were still hovering around like 10K. That's around the time that a lot of people like kind of brought these up, kind of destroyed them, modifying them and crashed them and all kinds of shit. This car wasn't that great, but it also sat for the last 10 years, so it kind of evaded that whole shenanigans. I think this car only had 3 owners. Most of the EVOs right now probably have about 6 to 9 owners. So yeah, there's that for sure. Now the cost of entry for these cars is also probably an issue. COVID pricing really like skewed the price for good EVOs and for shitty EVOs. Shitty EVOs now are probably still going for like 18K, which is insane and probably unheard of probably before COVID. Good ones are probably going high 20s, low 30s, and then if you go like pristine, like low mileage, like no modifications or anything like that, you're probably getting 40, maybe even 50K on like bring a trailer or something like that. You know, somebody that has money that wants to spend money on this. So obviously that's gonna be an issue. A lot of people. Oh! Sheesh! God damn. So anyway, obviously a lot of the people that want these cars, you're not just throwing 20K at a 20-year-old car. It's a 20-year-old car. If you have 20K, you probably want something a little bit more reliable, that has less mileage, less, you know, people that have owned it, things of that nature. I'm looking back at this and I want to make a clarification on what exactly that I mean. In reference to 20K on a 20-year-old car, I think I'm mainly referencing the fact that for 20K, you don't want a car that's beat, as most of these EVOs are. I'm not really sure what I was talking about, but just want to make that clarification here. That's going to be an issue. So another thing is living in the northeast area of the United States, you have to deal with salt in the winter, and these cars, and I think most Japanese cars from this area have a really bad time dealing with the salt. Subaru is notorious around Michigan for having the shittiest fender wells of all time. The Subaru steel, aluminum, whatever it is for those cars, is just terrible. Like, they rot so quick. Same thing with these cars, but it's more so the rear chassis legs than anything else. I think Like, you'll probably still get that wheel well rust, but it's not as bad as the rear chassis legs. The rear chassis legs, like, it's just bad. I think that's pretty much all I want to talk about when it comes to actually getting into an Evo. I think one of the next things I want to talk about is the parts. So when it comes to parts, I think manufacturers are supposed to continue to make parts for a car about 10 years after, I don't know if it's when they stop production or if it's 10 years from the start of production, but it's about 10 years. Don't quote me on that. I didn't really look into this, but that's something that I vaguely remember. This being 20 years old, that's obviously past 10 years. And with that, there's a lot of parts that just discontinue. A lot of the OEM stuff, I think there's like bits and pieces here and there, but a lot of the OEM stuff isn't new anymore. It's not being made. You can't source it and things of that nature. When stuff goes wrong, you either have to find somebody that's a part out specialist. I kind of deal with a couple of guys local here, and then the Evo Grim Reaper, who's in California. I've been seeing a lot of stuff that he has, and then, you know, just finding stuff on forums and Facebook and stuff like that. So that's gonna be our best friend when it comes to having one of these cars in this current time frame. Now, the other flip side to that is, you know, once stuff goes bad, you can upgrade it, and a lot of the upgrades for this car, it's not that bad. It's not like terrible like the Mustang, even though that's 10 years older. I mean, 10 years old, that thing is just expensive to modify. There's like a bright side within it, but if you want to get like OEM stuff, you're just gonna have to pay a premium after you find somebody with it. Yeah, so that's all I really got to say about parts. Probably the next thing, and this is like one of my biggest things about owning this car, one of my biggest gripes, is the noises this car makes. There's some nice noises, like of course the turbo, the blow-off valves. The other stuff, like, this car is one of the noisiest cars I've ever driven. Road noise, which it could be because this car doesn't have, well, currently it doesn't have the fender liner. It did at one point, and I think it was still bad, but it could be amplified because I don't have fender liner. But the road noise is insane. The car has gear whine and reversed in first and second. I think it's because those are straight cut gears. Yeah, like this car just it makes so many different noises between, you know, being in the cold, some of the stuff being old, like some of the old seals and bushes and stuff like that. It just makes a lot of noise, and you kind of have to deal with it sometimes. But let's go ahead and move on to the next thing, which is reliability. The car, for the most part, is reliable, except when it comes to the drivetrain. The drivetrain overall is pretty good, but the two weak links are transfer case. Obviously, I was talking about the transfer case death whine. Like, that is very infamous for Evos. I think that's a Evo 8, 9, and 10 thing. Also a fragility issue, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to the 6-speed, specifically in the MR cars for the 8 and 9. The 6-speed just, I don't know what Evo or Mitsubishi did, but the thing just can't handle power. Once you start making upwards of like I think 400 plus, maybe even a little bit lower than that, then the transmission kind of just eats itself. The 5 speeds have been pretty durable, but the 6 speeds are just like terrible. I'm talking about the fucking noises, but that, I can't get over that. That's all I really want to say on the drivetrain. Everything else is pretty solid. Axles, you never really have to deal with anything. I think there's people on, 1,000 horsepower drag races on stock axles. Drive shaft, I think, is pretty good. You don't really have to deal with that. And I think the same for the rear differential. I don't think a lot of people do anything with the rear diff, but you know, once you push stuff past a certain point, it's bound to break. So the motor, you're pretty good about that. So iron block, 4-cylinder. So these things are just very, very stout. Like seals and clips and stuff around, like Mitsubishi connectors, they're a little iffy. I think this video is about 6 years old, but I was watching the MAP video and they were talking about the housing on the turbos actually cracking, just stock power level, just over time they just crack in general. I think it's more of an issue on the Evo 10, but I think they said the Evo 8 and 9 also kind of deal with that issue. Very, very reliable for the most part. Besides that, the drivetrain, that's the biggest thing, and that's one of the more expensive things to worry about. So I don't really have a lot of complaints with this car. This is probably one of my favorite cars that I've owned. Granted, I haven't owned a lot of cars, but this, I don't know, it's something about this car that it just feels nice to own. I enjoy owning and driving it all the time. I guess with that being said, let's go ahead and move into the pluses or the pros, the good things about owning an EVO 8 in 2025. First, number one most important thing, the cool factor. Literally, this car, I have a supercharged 5.0, and yeah, you know, people like it or whatnot, but they love this car with the shitty paint and everything. Kids love the car. Obviously, car people love the car, but it has a cool car aura for whatever reason. It may be the rarity, like I said, you know, a lot of them weren't produced, and I think a lot of people just don't own the car, or you don't see a lot of them being driven. I daily drive this car, or I have been daily driving it for, you know, for the time being, like through the winter and all that. People just think it's cool. I think the car is cool. That's obviously why I bought the car. Moving past that, I think the driving experience for this car is just crazy. The car feels like it's on rails most of the time, and that kind of can get you in trouble. One of the first, I guess, like hard turns that I did on this car, it kind of broke traction. I was facing a wall. I was able to recover it, but that feeling of comfort and that good to go is just crazy. It's both a pro and a con, but it is more so a pro. The fact that this car is just that raw feeling that you can, you know, feel all the inputs of the car. It's not limited by a computer. I think this car is when Mitsubishi started to even do ABS. So ABS is probably like the only thing on this car that is computerized or anything of that nature. And I don't even know if it's computer. It has to be computerized. I think most ABS modules are, you know, controlled by ECU or something. But no traction. Like everything is like haptic feedback, push-pull style clutch, no hydraulic clutch. So it's just crazy. One and the same. It's just harmonizing. I'm joking, but yeah, this is a good car to drive. I really don't have any complaints. Besides the turning radius. The turning radius is a pretty shitty, but it's an all-wheel drive car, so what do you really expect from it? That turbo noise, the blow off, that has not gotten old to me, and it's already been probably about 2 years with this setup. I cannot wait to upgrade this. I guess let's talk about actually modifying this car, bro. Other reason I really enjoy this car is because it's so easy to work on, bro. It is so much easier to work on a 4-cylinder car in general, but this being traversely mounted, it makes it even easier. No, I think just 4-cylinder cars in general are just way easier. The V8 and the Mustang is, one, huge, and two, it's in there like super tight, so it's hard to kind of do certain things. Like taking out the rear spark plugs is a little bit of a hassle. When I put long tubes on, I had to remove first off, I fought with it for hours. I had to remove all the exhaust studs, and I had to take off the engine mount, something like that. Like it was just too complicated. This, I go in here, undo a couple of bolts, take the whole header and turbo assembly off, we're good to go. The fact that I can do that just makes this way easier to work on, makes it way less of a headache to work on, and you know, just you don't hate your life when you're actually doing stuff with this car. In addition to that, the parts for this car, aftermarket parts, are not that expensive, relatively speaking. You know, car parts in general are expensive. Relatively speaking, these parts aren't that expensive. If we just look into like a catback for this car, you can probably find for $500, maybe $600-700. Non-tow made, no that crazy. You might be able to even find it for cheaper than that, maybe like $400. If you go to a Subaru, bro, if you get NVIDIA, anything, you're $1,000, like off rip. Single exit for single exit, $1,000. Stainless for stainless, $1,000 versus $500. It is insane to me. There's obviously a price difference, a decent price difference in the background. Okay, so that's comparing it to like a Subaru. If we compare it to my Coyote car, it's ridiculous. Obviously, you can get like a cheap header. Like I got an FP cast manifold on here for like $300. If you wanted a header or anything like that, even like some shorties on the Coyote, that's like $200. I mean, probably like $1,000, $1,200, something like that. Granted, you got 2 banks versus just the one, but that's still insane, like 4 times the price. Prices for some of these parts are just way cheaper than modifying like a V8 or something, or V6, 6-cylinder, just anything of that nature. After modifying all that stuff, you get power relatively easy, bro. You know, having E85 and direct injection has been a game changer for all the manufacturers. That's been giving everybody like pretty much cheat codes to power. EVO did that way before. You don't need direct injection on the EVO to still make decent power. You can literally run a 450 FP Black 1650 injectors and you can make over 500 relatively easy. You don't really need to build the block for 500 or right over 500. You just need to keep the torque down low, but that means, you know, just ramp the boost in a little bit slower, but you can get that power for cheap. Let's say a Subaru, you're definitely building a block for 500. You don't have to build the drivetrain or anything, but the block alone for a Subaru, I think it's probably like 5,500 or something like that. You can get the same thing, a FP Black. I don't know if you could get 500 with just some 1650s and a 450 pump. I don't know if you have to do a dual pump or if you have to upgrade the injectors more, but like having to build a block alone, that's already a barrier, like a huge barrier into getting to that 500 horsepower range. The money to horsepower ratio for EVOs, immaculate. We gotta hurry. Let's go ahead and sum it up now, bro. Now that I can actually focus. It's a fun car to drive, easy to work on. Parts are pretty cheap for the aftermarket to make power, and it's a cool car, bro. It gets you get brownie points for owning this car because nobody can own. Well, nobody has this car. There isn't that many left around. Now, with all that being said, because it's not that many left around, it's gonna be hard to go ahead and find one. When you find one, it might be beat to shit, and if it's beat to shit, it's gonna be hard to find OEM parts. But make sure everything is okay. Make sure there's no weirdness going on. You'll love the car. I think anybody that drives this car will love this car. Buying a 2005 EVO in 2025, still worth it. 20 years later, childhood dream car, drove it, been driving it. Even with all the issues that I've had with